Right now, a rather hot topic is the so-called letters of happiness from Emaar, saying that you need to connect the Tasleem system in order for your air conditioner to keep working. For many, this is of course a bit of a shock because everyone thought that Emaar would always have so-called chiller-free, meaning that air conditioning costs were included in the service charge. But now changes are happening. Since our clients own quite a lot of property in Emaar, everyone of course started writing, calling and asking what this means and what to do. And so we just arrived at the Emaar Customer Centre. And basically, we asked all the main questions about how everything will work going forward. So let's go through the main questions that everyone is interested in. First, what will happen if we don't connect to the Tasleem system? In other words, will the air conditioner be turned off? It doesn't know exactly what your relationship with Tasleem will be, meaning how much time you'll be given to use the air conditioner without registration. Therefore, if you have the opportunity to register today, do it. You have nothing to lose. Again, I just asked this question directly at the customer center. For example, if the owner, on principle, does not want to connect, what will happen next? They told us that most likely there will be several months of a so-called grace period provided by Tasleem. Again, this does not depend on Emaar, after which the air conditioning will be turned off. In any case, when selling the apartment, you will still have to pay all of this, plus pay any penalties and fines for non-payment that have accrued roughly from the moment you were informed until the moment when you decided to obtain the NFC in order to sell the apartment. An NFC is a reminder of the certificate of no debt to the developer. As of today, in many branded buildings by Emaar, for example, Palace or Address, it is already necessary to obtain a separate certificate from Tasleem confirming there are no outstanding debts. So now this system will apply to all buildings, both branded and non-branded. As for the registration cost, it will be 1,210 dirhams. Of this amount, 1,000 dirhams is a security deposit and 210 is a connection fee. The second rather important question is whether the service charge will decrease. Since previously we paid for air conditioning, which was included in the service charge, and now this service is being transferred to a contractor from Tasleem, will the service charge decrease as a result? As was just stated at Emaar, yes, it will indeed decrease, or more precisely, it will be removed. The so-called additional fee is the payment we made for air conditioning. For example, in one of our apartments at Creek Harbour, last year we paid 5,500 dirhams per quarter for the service charge, which included air conditioning. This year, for the first quarter, we were charged 4,800 dirhams. So it was explained to us that this was precisely because, starting from January this year, Emaar no longer charges owners for air conditioning. Overall, if we compare with 2025, in 2026, the service charge became a bit more expensive. That is, if we are talking specifically about the area and the price per square foot. But due to the fact that now the payment for air conditioning is calculated separately, the total amount will actually be less. But most likely we will end up paying more, of course. So we will be paying Emaar for the service charge, which has increased a bit, and separately we will pay for air conditioning consumption. This is quite an interesting question that a lot of people actually ask. So how did it happen that our bills will be issued starting from January 1st, but we were only notified in June? Well, some were notified in June, some earlier, some later, depending on the community. So how was this situation explained? They said that, in general, this change was already known about. It was known, even Emaar itself knew about it last year, that is in 2025. It is precisely because of this that, starting from the first quarter of 2026, this payment was no longer collected. Accordingly, the bill with the total amount will be issued from January 1st up to the date the bill is issued, let's put it that way. Friends, that's the situation. I'm telling you exactly what they just told me at Emaar Square. Of course, if you have any overpayments, or you notice that at the stage of connection or receiving bills there are some incorrect figures, then of course that's a reason to contact your broker and ask them to clarify the situation. That is, go to the same Emaar Square, talk to the managers here and explain your situation. In other words, proactively address your issues and concerns. So there's no need to panic, there are new regulations, but if you're working with a specialist, everything will be resolved and taken care of for you. So friends, we've established that this is inevitable and it has already happened. And now the main question that worries many people, both owners and tenants. So I rented out my apartment to a tenant. He moved in under chiller-free conditions. That is, he was told he wouldn't have to pay for air conditioning, it's included in the rent. But now it turns out that Emaar introduced a new rule 6 months ago, which they only announced, let's say, recently. And the question arises, who in fact will pay and who will register the account in Tasleem? This is actually quite an important question because if now our consumption is measured by meters, then the one who lives in the apartment is the one consuming. Or for example, if a tenant lives there, he might run the air conditioner all the time or not use it at all. And of course, everyone is different and has their own preferences. Emaar's response here is that they do not interfere in the relationship between the tenant and the landlord. In other words, they have provided the information, and if there are any disputes between the tenant and the landlord, then that becomes a matter for the dispute center to resolve, so to speak. And friends, since we are actively involved in this whole rental and subletting process, as well as managing our clients' apartments, let me tell you this. At the dispute center, everything will be resolved strictly according to what is written in your contract. That is, if your contract with the tenant states that they pay according to the meters, say for DIWA, and that they are also required to pay for air conditioning, in that case, the truth, so to speak, will be on your side. If your contract clearly states that the tenant only pays for DIWA and is not required to pay for air conditioning usage, meaning that in your apartment it is chiller-free and this is specified in the contract, then I suspect that the dispute center will make a decision in favor of your tenant. That is, they will say that this is specified as a clause in the contract, and accordingly you are obliged to comply with the terms of the contract. Now let's move on to the main question. Why is all of this happening in the first place? As they explained in Emaar, this is not their initiative, but an initiative that was essentially imposed on them by the government. So they say the argument was as follows. Many owners buy apartments purely as an investment, meaning they don't even rent them out. But at the same time, Emaar constantly charges for air conditioning as if it's included in the service charges. And supposedly, this isn't a very fair approach, so air conditioning should be considered a regular utility service like DIWA or electricity. Basically, you pay for as much as you use. Well, friends, thank you very much for watching. I hope the information was useful for you. Just as a reminder, we are a licensed real estate agency in Dubai. That means we handle property management as well as buying and selling. So if you have any such needs, feel free to write to us. We'll be happy to help you with that.